How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Lamed Daled, Daf 34 of Masechta Gittin. Friends. Well, okay, we got a shtickle work to do on Daf Lamed Gimel and Beis. I thought I was being a wise guy yesterday, that I was gonna stop. I stopped on a little bit early on the daf yesterday. I figured I was late yesterday, so let me, cut it short. So then but today it's even later. But I don't think that this daf is as hard as yesterday's. So I think I stand by my decision. I don't think it was a bad decision to try to sort of cut yesterday's just a little bit short because it was tough stuff. But today I think moves the shtickle better. But let's see. Time will tell. Alright, so in Daf Lamed Gimel with Beis, I don't know, maybe 3/5 down the Amud on Lamed Gimel with Beis. Amr of Shmuel Bar Yehuda, yo? Hey, people outside, keep it down. You don't hear me, I shouldn't have to hear you. Alright, now, so yesterday we saw two machloek. So one notable thing on this daf that we're learning today is Yal Kigam comes up. That's pretty cool stuff. Yal Kigam. Alright, we'll get up to it. Anyways, so yesterday we saw people outside. You don't hear me, I shouldn't have to hear you. Alright, now, so yesterday we saw two machloeks in between Rebbe and his father, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. One was with regard to if a fellow is remotely mevatel a get, will it be bottle, right? Of course, Reb Gamliel Zokin had said that you can't be mevatel a get remotely. Now the shaila is, but what if you did? Rebbe says it's bottle. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says it's not bottle because imkein makoyach bezdin yofe. If Reb Gamliel Zokin says that you're not allowed to do it, then if you do it anyways, it works. So then what's the point, right? It undermines Reb Gamliel's authority, Reb Gamliel Zokin's authority. So Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says it doesn't work. Fine. And then we had a second machlokes between Rebbe and Reb Shimon ben Gamliel about if you tell 10 people to write a get, and then if you tell do you have to be mevatel zebif? What does it say? Zebifnei zeh? What is it? Levatel zeh shelo b'fnei zeh. Right? Do you basically do you have to be mevatel all of them together, or can you just be mevatel some of them separately? So Rebbe says you can be mevatel them separately. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says no. You have to be mevatel them all together. So those were two machloeks in between Rebbe and his father, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, that we saw yesterday. Now, so on Daf Lamed Gimel with Beis, now about 15-20 lines from the bottom. Amr Shmuel Bar Yehuda, says Shmuel Bar Yehuda, Shmuel's Mine the Reb Abba Tartei Chadik Rebbe v'Chadik Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. So Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda says that he heard from Reb Abba that with regard to these two machloiksin between Rebbe and his father, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, so says Reb Abba that in one of the machloiksin we paskin like Rebbe, and in the other we paskin like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Now I'm not sure which machloikis we paskin like Rebbe and which we paskin like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Is it the remotely being mevatel a get, or is it being mevatel zeh shelo b'fnei zeh? Rav Yosef says, Rav Yosef, well, let's see. When Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, Omar, he said, Maise, there's a piece of Maise, ve'osu Rebbe kedivri chacham. Okay, that Rebbe did like the chacham. Is the Gemara in Ksubis, okay, fine, okay, Rebbe passing a certain way. Now, Omer the fun of Reb Parta Beno Shor Abelazar ben Parta ben Beno Shor Parta Agodo Imkein Makoyach Bezdin Yofe. So he says to Rebbe, he says, well, if you're going to say that, well then, what good is Bezdin? V'chozer Rebbe v'asur Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Okay, fine. So basically, we see that there was an instance in which they asked, right, in which Rebbe's opinion was challenged from the fact that his opinion was undermining the koyach of Bezdin. And it says what? V'chazer Rebbe v'asuka b'Shimon ben Gamliel. And Rebbe was taka makabel. He says, you know what? You're taka right. That we can't undermine the authority of Bezdin. And therefore he was choser told like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. So we see that, if Reb Abba is saying that in one machlokes we passing like Rebbe, in the other machlokes we passing like Shimon ben Gamliel, well, it definitely seems that in the first machlokes, which is remotely being mevatel a get, that's going to be where we passing like Shimon ben Gamliel, because that was the case in which Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says, Im kein makoyach bezdin yofe, right? Meaning, Reb Gamliel Azokin had said that you cannot remotely be mevatel a get. The shaila is, what if you did anyways? Rebbe says it's bottle. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says, no, it's not bottle, because if you say it is bottle, then Im kein makoyach bezdin yofe. That was Reb Shimon ben Gamliel's argument. Now we see that there's a separate case from Ksubis, where ultimately Rebbe agreed with his father Reb Shimon ben Gamliel that Im kein makoyach bezdin yofe. So it seems that in the case of makoyach bezdin yofe, Rebbe agrees with Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, and that was the case of being mevatel the get remotely. So we see that we passing like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel with regard to being mevatel a get remotely, and therefore when we dahak Reb Shimon ben Gamliel hachki Rebbe. So from the fact that we've established that the first machlokas is where we paskin like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, so then memele the second machlokas about being mevatel zeh shelo b'fnei zeh is the one where we paskin like Rebbe. Ve'af Reb Yoshia de min Usha sover chadek Rebbe v'chadek Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Reb Yoshia de min Usha also holds that in one of the machloksin we paskin like Rebbe, and in the other we paskin like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. The Amar Rabba Bar Bachane says, Rabba Bar Bachane, Chamisha Sove Havinon Kame de Yoshia de min Usha, that we were 5 elders by Reb Yoshia de min Usha. Osau Gavra Kame, and a certain fellow came before Reb Yoshia de min Usha. Ve'ashkele Gita al Korche, and he basically coerced the fellow to give a get against his will, right? Meaning you can't actually give a get against your will; that would be invalid. But kofin also oni, right? You basically you squeeze it out of him until he says, "Yes, I want to give my wife a get." So they basically forced him to give his wife a get. And then Omar Lon, and then Rabbi Yoshia de min Usha said to us, Zilu itamru v'chisvu lei. And so basically they squeezed out of the husband that he wanted to give his wife a get, because he was being very stubborn and not giving his wife a get, but they basically forced it out of him that he wants to give a get. And then he said and then Rabbi Yoshia de min Usha instructed, now everybody run and go hide and write it so that he doesn't revoit, right? So that he doesn't be mevatel the get, right? We finally squeezed it out of him, forced it out of him that he wants to give a get. Once we have this information, just run away somewhere else and write the get so that he can't. It said he basically can't go back. Now, if it enters your mind that it's like Rebbe, that he could be mevatel the get remotely, well then kimitamru may have it. Well then who cares if they go and they hide? He could just be mevatel the get remotely. So what does that accomplish? Rather, it must be like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel that you cannot be mevatel a get remotely. And therefore, he says, go run and hide, because once you guys are gone, he will no longer be able to be mevatel the get. So, Elish Mamina Reb Shimon ben Gamliel svirle. Okay, so we see that in the machlokas about being mevatel to get remotely, and we pass it like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. And if it enters your mind that also by the other machlokas about being mevatel zeh shelo b'fnei zeh, if we also pass it like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel there, that you cannot be mevatel them separately, that you have to be mevatel them together. So if we pass it like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel there as well, lama lehu atmure, then why did he have to instruct them to hide? Libadru ibdure. Just let them separate. Right? They don't have to hide per se, just let one go here, one go there. And if the halacha is like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, then you can't be mevatel them separately. You have to be mevatel them together, and you won't be able to be mevatel. Right? So clearly, it holds like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel with regard to being mevatel remotely. You can't be mevatel remotely. Okay, fine. But then in terms of, can you be mevatel zeh without the other one? Well, if we hold like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel that no, you have to be mevatel them both together. So why did Rav Yoshia Demin Usha have to instruct them to hide? Don't hide, just separate, and you won't be able to be mevatel because you have to be mevatel together. Rather, it must be that in the second one we pass like Rebbe that you can be mevatel zeh shelo b'fnei zeh, which is why he had to tell them hide so that he can't even see you. So we see that Rabbi Yoshia Demin Usha passes like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel with regard to being mevatel get remotely, but like Rebbe with regard to being mevatel zeh shelo b'fnei zeh, that it's allowed. Okay. V'Rove Omer of Nachman. Now, Rave, however, says in the name of Rav Nachman, halachic ki Rebbe b'shtein, that we take paskin like Rebbe with both of them. We take paskin like Rebbe by both of them. That you can be mevatel get remotely, and also you can be mevatel zeh shelo b'fnei zeh. V'leis lei Rav Nachman makoyach bezdin yofe. But one second, if we're saying that that Rav Nachman holds that you can be mevatel a get remotely, well then we had Reb Shimon ben Gamliel had argued against Rebbe and said, but imkein makoyach bezdin yofe. If we're saying that you can undermine bezdin and be mevatel a get remotely, so then what it undermines bezdin. What's their strength at the end of the day if you could just go around them and be mevatel on your own anyways? So right. So how could Rav Nachman say that the halacha is like Rebbe that you can be mevatel remotely? But v'leisa the Rav Nachman makoyach bezdin yofe. But what, does Rav Nachman not hold of makoyach bezdin yofe, of your undermining bezdin? V'amar Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel. Rav Nachman says the name of Shmuel Yisomin shabo lachlik b'nichse evian, that if you have Yisomin, orphans who are ktanim, they're minors, and their father passed away, and so we want to divide up the state for them, but they're minors, they can't divide it up themselves. So bezdin ma'amidin loin apetropis. So bezdin assigns to the kids apetropas. That if there were two kids, so bezdin assigns each one in apetropa. Each one receives the be'etzem a lawyer, a representative, to make sure that their client, that each of these little kids, gets as much of the inheritance as he can, right? I mean, if we just draw a line down the middle, well then maybe one's going to get more valuable stuff. Maybe it's not going to be an equal split. But if we sort of assign them each lawyers to represent them and to make sure that their clients, that each one's kid is going to get the best that he can, well, that way we'll make sure that that it's really being divided up fairly, and that we have somebody to argue for each of the kids. Fine. So Bezdin ma'amidin lo'en apetropas. So Bezdin assigns to each of these two minors, to each of these minors, an apetropa. Uvorim lo'em chelek yofe, and each apetropa makes sure that the child that he's representing gets as the best the best inheritance that he can. Higdilu. Now, if these youngins become oldens, they become older, they grow up, they become adults. Yichol limchos, they can protest and say, I'm not satisfied with what my apetropa secured for me. Rav Nachman didei Amar, but Rav Nachman says nisht. Higdilu ein yicholin limchos deimkein makoyach bezdin yofe. Rav Nachman says nisht. When they get older, they cannot say, I'm not satisfied with the work that my apetropa did. Because if so, then you're undermining the authority of Bezdin. Bezdin assigned them apetropas to represent them. And now they're coming and saying, no, I'm not satisfied. It became makoyach bezdin yofe. The mokod is bezdin. So how could Rav Nachman be saying that we paskin like Rebbe with regard to being mevatel to get remotely, and we're not concerned about imkein makoyach bezdin yofe, and yet Rav Nachman says that by these minors, when they get older, they can they can say that they're not impressed, they're not okay with the work that the apotropas did. So Rav Nachman says there, imke makoyach bezdin yofe. So Hasam Amona Achi Isur. He said, yeah, but it's different. When it comes to money, so then right, this is a case of mominus, inheritance. So over there we're concerned, right, about the court, right, about the authority of the court. When it comes to Isura, right, which at the end of the day, yes, Rabbi Gamliel Hazakin said that you can't be mevatel to get remotely, but at the end of the day, midoraisa, you can. So therefore, he's not going to say makoyach bezdin yafa there when it's by isura, right? When it's by eshes ish isur v'heter, he's not going to say, yeah, but what about the prestige of the court? What about the authority of the court? But when it comes to mominus, right, monetary things, so we don't want to undermine the authority of the court, and we have to be concerned about makoyach bezdin yafa. So by mamona, Rav Nachman will say makoyach bezdin yafa. But by Isura, he will not. And that's why he says that. We pass like Rebbe by being remotely mevatel again. And I guess his daf maybe is taking a little bit longer than I thought, but I think it maybe picks up speed now. Yeah, I think it picks up speed now. Why not? Well, why shouldn't it pick up speed now? Gidol bar Re'iloi, Shadur lo Gittin l'dvisu. So Gidol bar Re'iloi sent with a shaliach a get to his wife. Ozul shlicha, so the shaliach, the messenger, went. Ashkicha da'ava yazva v'navla. She was weaving. She was weaving. He went to deliver her the get. She was weaving. Oh my Lord, and the shaliach says to her, Hey Gittin, here's your get. Amrlein, she says to him, Zil ashta meha v'salam acher. And she says to the shaliach, I'm busy, come tomorrow. Ozul l'gabi v'amrlein. So the shaliach goes back to the husband and he says, this is what happened. I went to drop the gift. She says, come back tomorrow. Posach ve'omer baruch atov ametiv. And the husband says, wow, baruch atov ametiv. Blessed are thou, the one who's good and does good. Right? He's gishmak. He's saying, this is the best. This is givaldik. Abaye omer baruch atov ve'ametiv ve'loi batul gito. Abai says, okay, he's blessing God that she didn't accept the get, but the get is not bottle. Rav Omer Baruch Atov V'Ametiv Uvatul Gita. Whereas Rav says, no, by saying Baruch, right, he finds out that she didn't accept the get, and he says, wow, Baruch Atov V'Ametiv Givaldig. So basically, he's being mevatel the get. He's showing that he doesn't want the get to divorce his wife. But Michael, if the gay, what's the machlokes between Abai who says it's not bottle and Rav who says it is bottle? Begilui daito begito kamiflegay. That the machlokes is regarding gilui daito, revealing the feelings of the fellow when it comes to a get. The Abai saw gilui daito begito lav milsei. Abai says we don't go based on sentiment when it comes to Gittin. Right, Gilui Daito, the revelation of the feelings. Whereas Rav says, no, we can go based on the feeling, on the sentiment. And therefore, when he finds out that his wife didn't accept the get, he says, well, Baruch Hatoy V'Ametiv. So Abai says, okay, that's very nice, but it's not being mevatel the get. Whereas Rav says, no, he's indicating that he's happy, that he doesn't want to get divorced. Baruch Hatoy V'Ametiv, that we didn't get divorced. So he's saying that this get is bottle. Alright, fine. Sounds very nice to me. Oh my Rav says, how do I know that there is Gilui Daita by get, that we do go based on the fellow's intent? Well, what was the word I said the other minute? The sentiment. Does sentiment make sense here? Why not? Why shouldn't sentiment make sense? So Amar Rav Minah Minallah, how do I know that we go based on the fellow's sentiment? The Rav Sheshes Ashkele Gitala Ugaver, that Rav Sheshes was squeezing out a fellow needed a shtickle motivation to give a get to his wife. Motivation in the form of breaking kneecaps kind of motivation. Baal Korche against his will. V'amar lehu l'saidei, and then the fellow who's all of a sudden desires to give his wife a get, he then says to the goons who are busting his kneecaps, Hachi Omar L'chu Rav Sheshes Levatel Gita, that Rav Sheshes said that you should be mevatel the get. V'atzachur Rav Sheshes Gita Achrina. And Rav Sheshes says, we gotta squeeze out another, right, we gotta write a separate get for this fellow. Meaning what happened? They were coercing this fellow to want to give a get to his wife. And then he says, Rotza Ani, I want to give a get, and they go to write, and they write the get. But then he tells the goons that Rav Sheshes wants you to be mevatel the get. Meaning, he's indicating, he's describing, he's sentimenting that he's not interested in the get. Basically, he seems to be showing us that he's being mevatel the get. And Rav Sheshes says you have to write a new get. So it sounds like sentiment is relevant, right? He didn't say he's being mevatel the get, but he's saying, Rav Sheshes wants you to be mevatel the get. Meaning, he's showing that he's not interested in it. And Rav Sheshes says he has to write a new one. So clearly it sounds like Gilui Milsa, Gilui Das Milsa, when it comes to get. Abaye fires back and he says, Nish, Otu Rav Sheshes mevatel Gita de Inshe Avo. I don't understand. What did he tell? He said Rav Sheshes said they should be mevatel the get. Why would Rav Sheshes be mevatel his get? So iu batle v'adika amrlu achi mishum dafnui. No, rather he was being mevatel the get, and that is why it is batel. It's nothing to do with Gilui Dai to begin. He's the one who was mevatel the get. The reason why he mentioned Rav Sheshes's name was just because of the goons. That if he said to the goons that he was being mevatel the get, they would bust his kneecaps again. But if he says that Rav Sheshes said to be mevatel the get, well then they won't bust his kneecaps again. Okay, but really it says Abaye, he was the one being mevatel it. Amar Abaye, how do I know that we don't go based on sentiment when it comes to Gittin? The Rav Yehuda Ashkele Gito Litana Lechasane de Rav Yirmiyah Biro, that Rav Yehuda was motivating Rav Yirmiyah Bira's son-in-law to give a get to his wife. I guess Rav Yirmiyah Bira's daughter, I guess. Uvatle. So they kind of motivated him to give a get one time, and he says Rotze Oni. But then he's mevatel the get. Tana Ashkele Uvatle. The same thing happened again. They've busted his other knee, and he says Rotze Oni, and then they write a get, and he's mevatel it nachamo. Hoder Tana ve'ashkele al korche. So then a third time, they I guess we're gonna bust his nose this time or something, and he says Rotze Oni, I want to give a get to my wife. Ve'amruhu l'saidei, and Rav Yehuda said to the witnesses that were there, the goons, Osivu kori unaichu, put a banana in your ear, uchsovu lei, and write the get, so that if basically, so what happened? This guy was being a real piece of work, in that he would say that Rotze Ani, I want to give the get, and they would write the get, and then we'd mevatel it. So Rav Yehuda finally told the goons, put a banana in your ear, so that if he wants to be mevatel the get, you say, I can't hear you, I have a banana in my ear. So v'isa kadaitech yidaita begita milsahi. But if it enters your mind that sentiment when it comes to a get is enough to be mevatel it, well then you could see that clearly the sentiment of the fellow is that he wants to be mevatel the get. Putting a banana in your ear isn't going to solve that. He's chasing after them. Right? He's trying to be mevatel the get. And yet we're saying that putting a banana in your ear seems to solve the problem. So clearly intent, right, sentiment when it comes to get is irrelevant. So Virove, whereas Rava says nisht, the sentiment when it comes to the get is relevant. But Haidi Karoit Basrayu the Amulu Osher Avula Haye Kiechid Mashlam Tsar Dau Gaber. No, Rava says that by chasing after him, he's not showing his sentiment that he wants to be mevatel the get. What he's saying, chasing after him to say, hurry up, do it faster so I can get this behind me. But there's nothing to do with Gilui Das. sentiment when it comes to get. V'amar Abaye, says Abaye minu aminullah, how do I know that sentiment is irrelevant when it comes to a get? Because of the case that we saw. Where did we see this? The other day? Did we see this yesterday? Lamed. A few days ago. Okay. So fellow says, Ilo asina ad tlos yomin, if I don't come home within 30 days, they have a gita, well then you're divorced, right? A fellow gives a get to his wife and he says, look, if I don't come back in 30 days, you're divorced. Fine. Also, but day 30 came and he's mamish right there and he's almost home. Ufaske ma'abare, and a river is separating between him and his home. Armalu, and he says to them, Chazuda asoy, look, I'm here. The get is bottle. Well, he doesn't say the get is bottle, which is important, but he says, look, I'm here. Right? I was Mekayim the Tanai. He said, if I didn't come, we're divorced if I don't come back in 30 days, but I'm here, I'm back. From Shmuel, lo shmei masya, Shmuel says, nisht, you're not back. There's a river separating you. So we see that even though he intended to get back, and his gilui milsa, right, his sentiment was that he wants the get to be bottled. He says, Chazud asoy, look, I'm here, I'm back. And yet, we're saying that, no, sorry Buster, you're divorced. So we see sentiment is irrelevant by a get. Virava, whereas Rava fires back, Otu osam levatule gita boy. But the thing is, says Rava, he wasn't trying to be mevatel a get over there. Hosam, likiyume t'nai kaboy. All he wants to do is he wants to be mekayim his t'nai. V'alo ikayim t'nai. But his t'nai was not met, right? He wasn't showing sentiment that he wants to be mevatel a get. What he was doing was he was trying to tell the people, look, the deal was if I don't come back within 30 days, it's a get, but I'm here, I'm back. And his intent was just to prove that he was Mekayim the T'nai. But we say he's not Mekayim the T'nai because there's the river there. But it has nothing to do with his intent to be Mvatal to get it. It has to do with his intent to be Mekayim his T'nai, to fulfill his commitment. So that is why so Rava would say, so Gilui Milsa is Daita Milsa begin, right? It's significant, but here it wasn't Gilui Das about being Mavatal the get. It was trying to be Mekayim T'nai. Awuda Amarlu, a fellow says to the people, Ilona Sivna Atlosin Yomin Lave Gita, right? So a fellow engages, he betroths a woman, and he gives her a get and says, look, if we don't get married within 30 days, we're divorced. Right? He says, look, I'm committing to you, we're going to get married within 30 days. If not, you're divorced. Kimatu Tlosin Yomin, and day 30 comes, Amarlu, and he says to the people, Hotarachna, he says, look, I'm trying my best. Basically, he's saying, look, I do want to get married within 30 days, but I'm trying my best. But the shaila is, now it's onus, right? He's trying his best, but he couldn't make it. So the question is it a get or not? So Lamai Nichushlov says, of course it's a get. What's the shaila to say it's not a get? Imishum onsa. If we're saying, well, he was onus, he tried his best, but he ran out of time. Well, ain onus begin. There is no concept of onus when it comes to getting, and it's going to be a good get. Imishum Gilui Daito Begita, and if it's about Gilui Das when it comes to a get, right, that by saying that, look, I tried my best to do it. So clearly it means that he didn't want to be Mavatal to get. But Plugta de Abaye v'Ravu. But that's machlokas between Abaye and Rav, and as we're going to see in a minute, that this is one of the 6 examples in Shas where we're passing like Abaye that Gilui Das Lav Milsa Begin. Therefore, the fact that he intended to get married and therefore it should not be a divorce is irrelevant, and he's divorced. Ahuda Amarlu, there was a certain fellow who said, Ilona Sivna l'Rish Yarcha de Oder. If we don't get married by Rish Chodesh Oder, La'ave Gita, then it's a get. Kibata Rish Yarcha de Oder, when Rish Chodesh Oder came, Amarlu, he said to the people, Honor l'Rish Yarcha de Nisan Ami. He says, oh no, I meant Rosh Chodesh Nisan, not Rosh Chodesh Oder. So of course it's a good get. Why should we think otherwise? If you're saying, well, onus, he thought he was going to be able to make it by other, so and it didn't work out, it's onus. But there ain't onus begin. There's no onus when it comes to Gittin. And if it's about yes, but he's revealing his intent that he wants to get to be bottle. So Okay, Gilui Daito. Plukta da Abaye v'Rove. Well, that's a machlokas between Abaye and Rove about whether it's relevant or not. And we paskin like Abaye that it's irrelevant, and therefore it's a get. V'Uchsa Kenachman, V'Uchsa Kenachman, V'Uchsa Kenachmani. And we say that we paskin like Rav Nachman from yesterday, that when you remotely mevatel a get pre Rav Gamliel Azaken, Rav Nachman says that you mevatel in front of two, so we paskin like Rav Nachman like that. We also paskin like Rav Nachman that the halacha is like Rebbe, both by being mevatel get remotely as well as by being mevatel zeh shelo b'fnei zeh. And ve'ilchas Nachmani, the halacha is like Nachmani. Who could tell me who Nachmani is? Abaye. Nachmani is taka Abaye. So the halacha is like Abaye that ein gilui milsa begin. Now, right, that gilui milsa gilui daita lab milsa begin. Fine. Now this is one of the 6 examples where we paskin like Abaye over instead of Rove. Right, the 6 examples are referred to as Ya'al Kigam. The Gimel in Ya'al Kigam is for Gittin. We paskin like Abaye with regard to Gilui Daita Lab Milsa begin. Fine. Now we get up to a new Mishnah. Barishona you Mishana Shmo Vishma Shemira V'Shemira. So initially, if you have a fellow who's got, in Bavel his name is this, and in Eretz Yisrael his name is that, so we would change his name, meaning we would use the name that reflects the place where the get is being written. Right? So if he has the name, we're going to see the Gemara gives examples of Yosef and Yochanan, I believe. I think it was Yosef and Yochanan were the examples that we used. I think. Come on, hurry up over here. I think it was Yosef and Yochanan. Let's assume. Yosef and Yochanan. So one place to call him Yosef, the other place to call him Yochanan. So we use the name that he uses, that he's known by in the place where the get's being written. Okay. Same thing as a city, right? If you have a city that is referred to as different names in different places, again, you go by the name in the place that you're writing the get. Hiskin Rabbi Gamliel Azakin, but Rabbi Gamliel Azakin min atakone sheyei kosev ish ploni v'chol shum sheyesh lo. Isha plonis v'chol shum sheyesh lo b'pnei tikun olam. That, but says Rabbi Gamliel Azakin that no, if he goes by Yosef here and Yochanan somewhere else, don't just write Yosef. Write Yosef and write Yosef and any other names that he might have, right? And in the other place, right? And also like what do we say? Plonis v'chol. Where am I? Because ish ploni, you say this fellow v'chol shum sheyesh lo, and any other name that he might have. Kilu, literally those words, right? Ish ploni v'chol shum sheyesh lo. Isha plonis v'chol shum sheyesh lo. And this woman and any names that she might have. Mipnei tikun olam. Out of concern for tikkun olam, that if you have a get that says that Yosef is divorced, and then you go to the other place where he's known as Yochanan, they're going to say he's not divorced, and they're going to start, we say she's not divorced, and you're going to start spreading the yentis in the bungalow colony on Shabbos afternoon while they're drinking the Diet Coke and low-fat malta bread, are going to talk about how she's not really divorced and mamzerim and a whole mess. So therefore we write, Yosef and any other name that he might have. Says the Gemara, Omer Yehuda Omer Shmuel, says Rav Yehuda and Shmuel, Shalchu lei b'nei Medina Sayom Rabbi Gamliel, that the people from Medina Sayom sent to Rabbi Gamliel in Eretz Yisrael, b'nei Adam Aboim Misham Lichan, that the Yidden who are coming from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, Shmo Yosef v'Karin lo Yochanan. His name really is Yosef, but they call him Yochanan. Yochanan v'Karin lo Yosef, or his name is Yochanan, but they call him Yosef. The guy with 2 names. Heyach Megash and Nishosein. How do they get divorced? What name do they put on the get? Omer Rabbi Gamliel v'Hiskin. Rabbi Gamliel made a takone. Sheyu kozvin ish ploni v'chol shum sheyesh lo. That they should write this fellow and any other name that he might have. Isha plonus v'chol shum sheyesh lo. And this woman and any other names that she might have, mipnei tikkun olam, out of concern for tikkun olam, that we don't want anybody to start spreading the yentis in the bungalow colony on Shabbos afternoon while they're drinking Diet Coke and eating low-fat mandel bread. We don't want them to add to their agenda to talk about this woman who's not really divorced and her children are mamzerim. So to avoid that all matziv, we write, all the names. Fine. Well, the name that you know about, and a reference to any other names and any other names that they might have. Omer of Ashi, so Rav Ashi Vuda is chazik b'trei shmei. But that is only if we know that he has more than one name, right? So if you're in a place that he goes by Yosef, but they know that he also has another name, Yochanan, so then you write both of those names. But if you only know, as far as you're concerned, you only know that his name is Yosef, then you just need to write Yosef. Omerle Reb Abba Reb Ashi, says Reb Abba to Reb Ashi, Reb Mari Reb Elazar kaim kavose. The Reb Mari and Reb Elazar taka hold like you, that it's only when we have a chazaka that he has more than one name. Tani kavose. The Rav Ashi, we have a brisa supporting Rav Ashi. That if you have a fellow, he's married to two women. Achaz b'Yehuda v'achaz b'Galil. One of his wives is in Yehuda, the other of his wives is in the Galil. V'lo shnei shemis. And he also has two different names. Achaz b'Yehuda v'achaz b'Galil. One in Yehuda, one in the Galilee. I mean, it doesn't sound sketchy at all. You have a guy who goes by one name in the Galil, and he's got a wife there. And he goes by another name in Yehuda, and he's got a wife there. Alright. V'gerish es ishto shebeYehuda, and he gets divorced. He's divorcing his wife in Yehuda. B'shmo shebeYehuda, with his name, the name that he goes by in Yehuda. V'es ishto shebeGalil b'shmo shebeGalil. And if he divorces his wife in the Galil, with the name that he uses in the Galil, it's not a divorce ad that he needs to divorce his wife in Yehuda with his name that he goes by in Yehuda, as well as with his name that he goes by in the Galil. And when he gets married, when he gets divorced from his wife in the Galilee, so he's got to use the name that he uses in the Galil, as well as the name that he uses in Yerushalayim. Now, if he goes to a different place, not Yehuda or the Galil, v'gerish be'echad mehem migoreshes, and he on the get it only writes one of his names, then it works to divorce. V'amar shem de Galil imo. 1 second, you said that when he gets divorced in Yehuda, he has to write the name that he goes by in Yehuda plus the name that he goes by in the Galil. And now you're saying that if he goes to some other place, he only needs to use the name that they know him by. So it must be shmamino. So it must be that the difference is that when we say that in Yehuda, he's got to use his name from Yehuda plus his name from the Galil. And so that's because in Yehuda they know that he has multiple names. They know that he has the name in Yehuda as well as this other name that he uses in the Galil. So therefore he has to mention both of them. But in this other place in the Sefer where he says that you only need to use the name that they know him by, that's because they don't know that he has an additional name. There's no chazakah. So therefore he can just go by that, what they know him by that other place. Miriam ufurta Sarah, if there was a woman that everybody knew her by Miriam, but some people knew her by Sarah. Amin Ardoid and Ardain say Miriam v'choshum sheyesh la v'lo Sarah v'choshum sheyesh la. Since Miriam is the main name, so write in the document Miriam and any other name that you might have. Don't write Sarah and any other name that you might have, since not so many people know her by Sarah. Friends, I gotta go to sleep. It's getting late. That was Daf Lamed Daled of Masechta Gittin. I hope you enjoyed. Peace out.